If you're looking for a happy ending, you won't find one here. At least that's what I tell people when I introduce them to Korean horror. My initial foray into Korean cinema was like many others, morbid curiosity. Tales of vengeance and brutal extremes that linger in your mind, not just because of their shocking imagery or disturbing subject matter, but because they seem to be layered with a troubling honesty, a special ingredient that's hard to find in other movies, a distinctive quality of darkness. Not only do they have an expert grasp of dark themes, they also know how to communicate it. So well, in fact, that in the last 20 years of its cinema, it has made the rest of the world sit up and pay attention to their films, becoming beloved at film festivals and finding an international audience through the internet. They share brutal, gripping, and relentless stories with a darkness I rarely see approached in American horror movies. Even recent Japanese horror doesn't seem to be at the same level anymore. Far are the days of Ringu, Ju-on, and Dark Water, now replaced by shallow sequels and remakes or movies taking an anime aesthetic. Somehow, Korean horror has managed to be more consistent with their unique flavor of mature darkness. But why do their movies feel different? What are they doing that leaves such a lasting mark? And can it be emulated? In today's video, I want to examine a few interesting patterns in Korean horror that can teach us how to make more striking horror movies. Although films like I Saw the Devil and the trilogy of Vengeance have horror elements in them, they are mostly considered thrillers and deserving of their own separate video essay analysis. Also, a spoiler warning is in effect. Something prevalent in Korean horror movies is contrast. They have an interesting way of mixing genres together. One minute you're watching a romantic comedy, and the next it turns into a science fiction horror. This trend is also found in their dramas and investigative thrillers. That's why many people consider movies like Oldboy to be horror, because of its disturbing scenes. They are odd hybrids of extremes. Although having tonal shifts from horror to comedy is not rare, for some reason, the way South Korean filmmakers do it feels bolder and harsher. What I find interesting is that the comedy doesn't undercut the severity of the overall story. It actually deepens it. The first thing it does is draw you in. When you're going to see a horror movie, you know that something is going to try and scare you. So initially, you're already on your guard. It's as if you're going into a home knowing someone is hiding around in the corner. And at any minute, they're going to jump out. You would be more rigid, alert, and on the defense. The moments of comedy are there to distract you. It eases your tension. It's supposed to make you feel comfortable. After a while, you start feeling like things are okay. You can trust it. So you laugh, open up, and lower your guard. We see this in the two main characters of The Host and The Wailing. They are both clumsy characters of readied embarrassment, inept at their jobs and at being parents. Their awkward antics and slapstick-filled interactions make us forget we're watching a horror movie, even if one is dealing with a rampaging monster that kidnapped his daughter, and the other investigating an evil entity spreading a supernatural contagion. The moments of levity make us doubt that something bad is going to happen, because we can't see how this can turn into this. The second thing contrast does is disorient us. You're left not knowing how to react to a scene. A great example can be found in The Host. We see the main characters at a public wake, in deep mourning. We expect the scene to feel melodramatic because of the recent infanticide. And yet the family's escalating blundering behaviors towards one another makes it so we can't help but laugh even if it feels out of place. You're surprised with your own reaction to what you expected to be a serious scene. Or in The Wailing, when the main character is called to the first crime scene of the film. A husband has just randomly murdered his wife in a very gruesome way. It looks disturbing, and the grieving family members being held back just adds to the morose mood. But this is contrasted by the second crime scene, where other infected townspeople are trying to bite the main character, and it's played for laughs. It subverts how we feel we're supposed to react to a horror movie. Contrast creates a feeling of intrusion. It's like something that's not supposed to be there, so it doesn't feel right. It's offsetting, as if the comedy is intruding in the horror, but in turn, the horror is intruding in the comedy. And when this happens, the horrific moments strike us even harder.
우선 자기 소개부터 좀 해봐. 자신이 누구라고 생각해?
Another pattern is how certain Korean horror movies keep you at a comfortable distance from the truth. They withhold information for as long as they can and make you work for it, while other movies might hand it out freely. In A Tale of Two Sisters, distance is meant to separate you from the truth of the threat. At the beginning, we're led to believe that this will be a haunted house movie. We see an evil spirit haunting the main character Sumi and her sister. We hear strange noises and see odd apparitions. But there are other things happening in the background, while we're focused on the ghost. That's because the supernatural element is actually a narrative distraction. It's what's keeping you at a distance from what's truly haunting Sumi. It is a ghost, but formed by guilt, and it lives in her mind. We're purposely being misled by Sumi's narrative because she can't accept this guilt, so it's being kept from us. It's only until the end, when she accepts this guilt, that we can see the truth she was hiding from both herself and us. Often in movies with a supernatural threat, there is an attempt at explaining the monster or the ghost by giving it rules, a backstory, or a weakness, because ultimately, the goal is to defeat it. But in South Korean movies, you tend to notice that the goal is to try and survive it. In Gonjiam Haunted Asylum, we're presented with a group of young paranormal explorers that are setting up a live stream in an abandoned asylum. They come in with cameras, motion sensors, and a false sense of security that they understand what they're going up against. They have thoroughly researched the building and its dark history, but they quickly realize that even with all this preparation, they have intruded in a place they don't understand, can't control, and that keeps changing the rules. Like them, we're kept in the dark with no answers. In The Wailing, the threat is also an elusive one, but it's not kept in the shadows. The writer-director Hong-jin obscures it with our own doubts. There's a paranormal ailment affecting the town of Gukseong, causing people to become possessed and commit murders. The main suspect connected to all these events is an old reclusive Japanese man. We're told from the beginning that he is the evil we should be worried about, but we're left unsure because he seems to be a normal old man and doesn't look to be any more ominous than the people in the town. But that's how the director wants you to feel. I wanted to show this threat through someone with similar physical characteristics to Koreans. This is why I cast a Japanese actor. As time went by, he would reveal his true nature, and we would realize that he's different, and that even communication is impossible. I wanted to express the fear coming from this impossibility of communication.
동네에서 뭔 짓거리 하는지 다 알고 있어. 쫓아가면 다 받고. 그리고 내 딸한테도 뭔 짓거리를 하는지 다 알고 있어, 이 시벌놈아.
He wants the threat to be familiar, but foreign, so there's still distance between the main character. I started out with the image of someone far away, indistinguishable, gradually coming towards you, and the moment when they're right in front of your face, when you can see their pores, smell them and feel their sweat, and what it must feel like when evil attacks and invades you. I started with that image of evil approaching from far away to show its identity to you. Distance is meant to keep the threat unclear and to build uncertainty, so you don't know what information you can trust and what character is feeding you a false narrative. This makes you doubt your own judgment and question at what point in the movie you fell for the trap. Reaching the end of the movie, you've been disoriented, confused, and now there's something else waiting for you. Once you reach the end, it feels like they're not trying to scare you. What they managed to do is instill despair. The strong streak of melodrama in Korean horror is one of the defining characteristics of the genre. Melodrama is the default narrative mode in Korean cinema. They are filled with tragic tales, defeatist narratives, with inevitably sad endings. At the end of Tale of Two Sisters, you don't feel fear for the ghost haunting the house. You feel sadness for Sumi having indirectly helping in the death of her sister. In The Host, the monster is ultimately stopped, but much was lost, and you feel frustrated with how the government only made matters worse. In Gonjiam Haunted Asylum, you see futility in the characters' efforts to escape as they all meet their tragic end. In The Wailing, you're left utterly defeated and broken, like you've gone up against something much bigger than yourself. Despair has a different effect than fear. Fear is paralyzing and activates your fight or flight instincts while sending your heartbeat in a fury. Despair, on the other hand, is very heavy. It's a sinking sadness with its own lingering aftertaste, devoid of hope. It's a punch to the gut that feels personal. It's like you've been in an emotional roller coaster of highs and lows, of comedy, horror, and melodrama. At the end, you're left spent because your range of emotions have been used up. It takes you out of the escapism of the movie, and you can't help but think why this darkness feels different from what you're used to. Well, maybe because you're not used to it. The horror genre is usually very indicative to the repressed fears and struggles of where it originates from. South Korea has had a very tumultuous and censored past, so it can't help but feel different and emotionally drastic. In reality, society like our emotions can be extreme. Like I said before, if society is chaotic and it has experienced turbulence and difficult times, that naturally shows up in our emotions unconsciously. It's why our audiences are receptive to the more provocative films born from this turbulence. Be it personal or societal, cinema allows us to become tourists of someone else's once repressed darkness. Thank you for taking the time to watch our video. We invite you to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't done so yet. Hopefully I didn't butcher any Korean names too badly. Today's musical composition was made by Eduardo Gonzalez. If you like his work, you can check out his information down in the description. If you wish to support this channel, please check out our Patreon page. Until next time.